SY200, let's talk about Midi. Hey, hope you're all doing well. The other day, someone commented on one of my SY200 videos and asked if there's a decent Midi video for the pedal out there. And before I could reply, someone else wrote, no. Now I thought, well, now we can't have that, can we? I do have another video where I use the SY200 with the GT1000 core, and I show how you can send Midi notes from your GT1000 core to the SY200 and change patches and change certain parameters in the pedal. If that sounds like something you want to see, I'll put a link down in the description for you. Of course, that will work with not only the GT1000 core, but with other Midi pedals as well. So worth a watch if you use other pedals that use Midi. So you can see just here, I've got my SY200 on the desk and I'm using the MC8 Midi controller, which is going to send the Midi messages to my SY200 today. What we're going to do is we're going to go into our menu. We're going to go through all of these Midi messages in here. This first one, RX channel. This basically means the channel that the pedal is going to be receiving the Midi messages on. It comes default at 1. I changed mine to number 10 because I've got other devices that use up all of those other slots, and 10 was free, so that's what it is receiving messages on. I always just change this TX channel, which is a send channel. I change it to match it just because. PC in. Now I'm not sure if it comes default off or on, I don't remember, but end of the day, if you want to receive program change messages from an external device, you need to turn it on. Even if you've got the appropriate channel set, you still need to turn this on in order for it to receive those program change messages. A program change is more or less just a patch change in this regard. So on my Morningstar controller, this here is a bunch of presets that I've pre-saved. On screen here, this is the Morningstar editor. If you don't have this particular device, don't worry about this too much. I'm just using as an example to show you what's going on. This here means that when I press the pedal, I send a program change message and I send program change number 121. It's not sending to all Midi channels. I'm only sending it to that channel 10, which I mapped to my SY200. If I press this one down here, which is a button you can't quite see off screen, I press it, watch the SY200, it's gone to 122. Now, like I said, this says 121 on screen. So why did it go to 122? So that's because Midi starts at 0. Some pedals do compensate and they start from 1, but in this case, this is very much an example of typical Midi. Midi starts at 0 and goes to 127, which equals 128 total Midi presets in this example. For those of you who think that's stupid because 0 is nothing, just remember that nothing is still something. Therefore, 0 is 1. So in these cases, if you know where your preset is, just remember to -1 and write that in that way. Okay, so on the next page now. Firstly, this one here is control change in. You want to have that turned on if you want to be sending control change messages to the pedal for it to respond. It changes certain parameters like on and off, the tone, the direct level, etc. We'll get to that. These two here, program change out, control change out. Basically, you can send PC messages and CC messages from the pedal. For example, if I turn on my control change out, I've just set it up in my GT1000. What I've done here is I've changed my receive channel to match the SY200. So it's going to be receiving on channel 10. And remember that this SY200 was sending on the same channel, channel 10. Come into your controller sign settings, distortion 1, drive, minimum 0, maximum 120. I've set that to control change number 20. It's momentary because I want to be scrolling. So to jump ahead on the SY200 here, the next one here, parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3, they're all a control change, and you've got 20, 21, 22, and that is quite literally these 3 knobs here. So this knob here responds to control change number 20. So if the pedal's receiving control change number 20, it's going to be doing something to this value, and vice versa. But also you can send program change number 20. So whenever I move this on my GT1000 core, the drive level is also going to respond. So the drive level here is at 60. So now obviously come out of your menu so you don't adjust the parameter. You watch the drive level here. See, it is changing in relation to what this says here. Pretty cool, right? Same thing, of course, with the program change out. If you want to send program change messages from your SY200, when you adjust something on there, it'll adjust the other pedals. In that other video I was talking about, I show you how you can do that on the GT1000 and control the SY200. Just depends on how you want to use it. All right, so we just went through that page. Literally these 3 dials here control these 3 parameters. So what I have done is I've mapped this button here to control change number 20. If we have a look on screen, control change number 20. Now first value is 16, it's a toggle, so when I press it again, it's going to do value 109. And now that's going to be the tone. So if I press it once, you can see it goes to 12, and then back to 86, 86, 12, 86. So now I'll press that value again. You guys watch the tone. I'm going to adjust the depth to pulling the screen up, and I'll press that and you'll see the tone change. So there, 86, 12. So then if you wanted to adjust parameters 2 and 3, the same thing applies. You just want to map CC number 21 and 22 to appropriate buttons to be able to adjust the tone, the tempo, or the depth. Now, when it comes to tempo, personally, I like my SY200 to be receiving a Midi clock. That way, my arpeggios and like my synth pulses, like the bassy synth things, they're gonna follow the tempo of the song that I'm playing along to. And of course, the delay taps are gonna be in time with those arpeggios and those pulses as well. All right, so a quick example here. I've just set up my GT1000 with the tempo there at 100. But if you look back on the SY200, the tempo there is 120. If I just plug this pedal here to the Midi in, so it's coming from my GT1000, let's go. You can see the SY200 there has changed to Midi, meaning that whatever tempo is on my external device, being the GT1000, is telling the SY200 to follow along at that tempo. I've got another video where I talk about the features and I show this exact example of that. That video is down in the description as well. Check it out. In order to do that, that's in the MIDI settings as well. Come across to here and just change this sync to auto. Internal means that the tempo is going to come from the SY200. Auto means it's going to come from an external device. I did jump the gun there to get to that one, but we talked about tempo on the parameters, so that's why we jet there. Next one along, direct level, effect level, on-off switch. This is quite obviously the same idea as the parameters 1, 2, and 3, but instead now this is going to affect the direct level, the effect level, and the on-off button down here. So in order to do that, same thing applies. Here I've already set up the direct level. We've got CC number 18, a value of 20, and then second position for a toggle is 115. So let me just do this again. I'll change the variation and you watch the direct level change. So variation, and press, now it's at 15, 90. So again, we're looking at the value of the direct level just here, which is this button. If I press it once, it comes down to 15, press it again, goes up to 90. Then of course, same thing applies for the effect level. Number 19, assign that to the appropriate button and you can affect the effect level. Now this one, on-off switch CC, is number 28. That was a little bit confusing at first. It's not just a simple on and off, it's actually controlling the button. So the button itself is receiving on 28. So when I mapped it to my controller at number 28, I'll show you. So like I said, this controls the button. It does turn it on and off. You watch, I press it once, nothing. Press it again, turns it on. Press it again, nothing. Press it again, turns it off. So it's controlling this as like a toggle. So if I set it up on screen here, just like a standard, what you would assume on and off switch, it doesn't work. However, there is a value further along. Again, jumping the gun. This one here, effect 27. What that means is it's turning the effect on and off. So if I quite simply change these values here to 27, now this on off button controls 27, which is on, off, on, off, on, off. Simple, right? If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out all the other videos and check the links down the bottom. I've got some sick original music and other things as well that are very enticing. You should definitely have a look at. Next one, page 5. Now this relates to control pedals number 1, 2, and 3. So same as the on-off button, 82, which is control 1, controls this button here. So if you want to be able to manipulate control pedals 1, 2, and 3, controls 2 and 3 are obviously the input on the back of the pedal where you just add an external 2-button MIDI controller. They come pre-mapped per preset, which is pretty cool. But what you want to do is control function. So that's control function 1. So it's memory up and hold. Scroll down, you can change whether it be system or memory. Let's just leave it at system, meaning that is across the board. And control pedals 2 and 3, This is sound hold and memory decrease. I'll just go show you the one. So control 1, I've got mapped to memory up and hold. So I've now mapped this button here to be memory up. This pedal is cool. It does have an option to have a hold function in it as well, but I'm not going to do that right now. If you're using a Morningstar style pedal, you will need to do it like this. Control change 127, meaning the highest value. So that way it's going to trigger that control change, which is a memory up. You do, on the release of the pedal, need to put in the value of 0, which means stop sending the up signal. It didn't really work. I don't know why, it's just how it worked. So now when I press this button, because I changed it to system, every preset is just going to keep scrolling through and then back to the top. Cool. So like I said, if you want to adjust the other ones, you just need to come in here and choose the functions that you want it to be. So on this particular preset, it would be control pedal number 2 is a pitch and it goes up by 12, and memory decrease, that's how that would work. Next one, expression pedal number 16. Now on that first video where I used the GT1000, I use the expression pedal through the GT1000 into the SY200, and that explains that one perfectly. Watch that one. Next is the effect on and off. I showed you guys that one. Next is the sync, that's on auto. And then at the very end, we've got clock out and MIDI through. So of course, if you're receiving the clock to the SY200 and you want to send it through to something else, turn that on, and that way anything after the SY200 is going to receive that MIDI clock as well, such as delays, reverbs, those kinds of things. And MIDI through, essentially, if you've got pedals after the SY200 that's going to be receiving on a different channel, you can send those messages through the SY200 to those other effects and not affect your SY200 and only affect those other ones. So there we go. That is a crash course on MIDI for the SY200. I hope that made sense to all of you and answered some questions and gets you guys controlling those things a little bit easier. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. See you next time.